Thank you for making it to another episode of It's My Money with Patrina Dixon. If you're watching us, or the Money Exchange podcast, if you are listening to us. I am so excited to have another FinCon BFF, financial BFF, on the line with me today. So I have Antoinette Monroe. She's going to talk a little bit about money management and real estate investing that also led to now what is residential assisted living. So she has so many different things in her arsenal that she's going to share with us today. I can't wait for you to meet her. But before we do that, for those of you that may be new, my name is Patrina Dixon. I am the It's My Money lady all over the place. I am about ensuring that people have the financial foundation, the financial fundamentals. So when they begin to make all this money that you're about to hear from her, they have the information that they need to make sure that they're keeping it, growing it, and building generational wealth. So that's who I am. If you want to know more about me, drop down below in the comments, in the show notes, and go to my website. You'll hear more. If you're interested in learning how to make more with affiliate marketing, there's a link down there below. I can teach you how to do that as well. And with that, Antoinette Monroe, what's up, girlfriend?
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. Now, I didn't set you up. I told them money management, then they got residential investing there, or excuse me, real estate investing they'll hear about. And then now the residential assisted living. So tell them a little bit about you before we dig deep into those things.
Okay. Well, born and raised in the county of Dade, from Miami Gardens, Florida. Went to Florida A&M. Right out of college, I knew that money was important, having grown up in Miami Gardens and seeing a lot of bad examples with money. So that was always my focus. So I went from being strictly a money nerd to managing my budget and trying to plan everything out in life. And then that graduated into making investments, starting with real estate investing. And now that's transitioning into a different class of real estate investing, but residential assisted living. And along the way, there have been a ton of side hustles. I've driven Uber, I've done a notary, I've taught part-time. So any way that I could make money or build out a business venture, I would always try it.
I love it. And I love how you talked about those other things that you dropped in at the end, because what you'll hear from Antoinette is that she was doing these things on the side. She worked for an employer, and now she is full-time entrepreneur, which I love. And I know a lot of you watching and listening have aspirations to one time be full-time entrepreneur. So Antoinette, let's talk a little bit. Let's start them on the journey. So you did a lot of these things while you were still working what we'll call a 9-to-5, even if your hours were different. So talk about how you were able to manage working your 9-to-5 while managing the businesses that you talked about.
Well, the 9-to-5 was never the priority, unfortunately, for me. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and do something else, but I had to have a 9-to-5 to live in the meantime. So that was always like, I'm going to do this thing to have money to live while I search and try to figure out what I actually want to do. So after work was when the party started. I had a tax office that I would do after work and on the weekends. I would drive Uber on my way to work, like get up 2 hours early, drive around until I got close to my job, then turn it off, go to work and do the same thing on the way back. I started teaching part-time online for local universities because I have a degree in business. So I was able to teach part-time business classes. So whatever I was able to touch with either the degree I already had, the tools I already had, my car, whatever I had access to already, I looked for ways to generate additional income from that. But in going through all of those different experiences, you're exposing yourself to different functions of business, and you're able to narrow down what you like, what you don't like. And the only way you're going to know that stuff is if you try it. So I tried everything.
I love it. I love it. And what I loved what you said, and what I try to teach people as well, is you maximize what you already had. So driving for Uber before and after work, you didn't have to buy a different vehicle for that. Like, it was a vehicle you already have. So if you're listening and you drive right now, you can earn additional money from the vehicle that you already have. So a lot of people think they have to go out and get other skills or different things like that in order to earn money to help realize their dreams. So I love your story. And know what? I got up 2 additional hours before I went to work, and I made some money on the way, and I made some money on the way back home. Like, I love that. And then you utilize your weekend hours. So what we do is put in time early, or throughout several years, so that the other years we're able to work what I call, we have our time back and do what we want with our time. So you knew that wasn't your priority. You did Uber and varying different things to get to what you wanted. So you dabbled in first. Let me first talk about, so when you were making the money, Uber or however, whatever else you were doing, you were managing that money. Was that money you were putting aside for the business ventures that you ended up trying?
It was just savings. So like from day one, from my very first paycheck with my corporate job, I created a budget spreadsheet that I still follow to this day.
Mm-hmm.
I knew where every dime went, and I saved aggressively because initially I just wanted to quit the job altogether.
Uh-huh.
And I thought I needed to save up enough money to be able to live off of after I left the job,
Okay, got it.
to pursue a dream or figure out what I wanted to do, rather than just working through the whole thing until I got to what I wanted to do. So it was very much money focused first, wanting to be debt free, making sure I was saving as aggressively as possible. So I did the same. When I started making that additional income from side hustles, I already had good money management habits. So
Yes.
it just all went to savings.
I love it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, and then not having vices, right? Like those first few years of a job, that first 5 years, I called it my 5-year plan. I knew if I got everything right foundationally, after that, it would be more like coasting through financial decisions, because
Yes.
I focused on instilling good benefits, and now they would be habits. And so I didn't have to think about what I did with money anymore, because I did that work at first.
Oh my gosh, that piece I have to cut out and blast everywhere, because that is actually it. So I talked about this at the top. That's the part, that's my lane, I'll call it. Like, I want and try the best that I can to teach people how to have those foundational, or that's fundamental things, like you talked about, that budgeting spreadsheet that you started using and still use today. Because with that, you have the habit that you talked about that led you to save, that led you to look at all of your money and know where every single dollar is going. So a zero-based budget, and to be able to do the things that you're doing today comfortably. So I love that's part of your story. And I want people that are listening to understand that, there's a lot of people, a lot of you that want to make 6, 7 tons of figures, which is great. We all want to, some people have aspirations to do that, but no matter how much you make, if you don't have those sound fundamental skills, it may not be around for long.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
it's what you do with it, not how much you have.
Yes. And I do what I do because I made a lot of money, but I also spent a lot of money, because that's what I thought you do. You make it, you spend it, you make it, you keep going back to work, and you get more and you spend it more. So when you understand really how this thing works, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So glad to hear that that's part of your story. Okay. So now you're working this job to be able to fund your dream. You now are doing some things on the side to stack up your savings. So you got great money management skills. And then you started with real estate investing. So let's talk about how you moved into that realm of investing.
So with real estate investing, initially that was just another smart money idea, right? Rather than paying money to rent that I don't see a return on anymore, I could purchase a property and live in it. But even better, I could purchase a property, rent out a part of it, and live there for free. So now I've eliminated my biggest expense.
Yes.
And that changes everything. It changes the reason why I go to work, my need for money, because now I've eliminated the majority of my bills. So it started with just wanting to have no bills, so that all of the money I earned, I could use towards something else, building a business, what have you. And from doing that first house hack, the things that you learn when you purchase your own primary home, and if you purchase it with an investor mindset, like, how do I make this home generate income? You now have all the tools that you need to rinse and repeat that and become a real estate investor if you chose to do so. So it started with just doing a house hack, to then repeating that process 4 more times and having enough property to live off the rental income completely and to leave my job altogether.
Girl, okay, so you are laying it down here. So some folks on the phone, like, I know what house hacking is, but let them know so they can track with us. What is house hacking?
House hacking is when you purchase a home that you can either live in for free because the rental income that it generates pays its own bills, or you're using that rental income to significantly reduce your expenses. So it's taking that primary home that everybody thinks is the best asset they could ever buy, but it's really just their biggest liability and why they go to work every day, and turning it into a true cash generating asset.
I love it. I love it. I had several folks on the show that come in and talk about how they do that today. And then what you added, and I think maybe they have said it as well, is rinse and repeat. So once you got into it, you're like, okay, I like this. And let me do that times 4, right? I think that's the number you said, right? 4?
Yep. That's all it took. After
Yeah.
the first property, once you eliminate your expenses, all your income, like your need for income is different. So any additional property or source of income you add to that, that's like making the lifestyle more cushy. That's lifestyle inflation. That's adding different layers of comfort. So in one property, I didn't need income anymore. In 2 properties, now I don't need income and I have a little spending. Once you get to the 4th, now I'm living the same lifestyle I lived when I worked for an employer, but because I don't have bills, I don't need to make nearly as much. So 4 properties of rental income is more than enough to maintain my lifestyle.
Yeah. So now let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because the way you're describing it, Antoinette, like, oh, it's easy peasy. No worries, just do this and rinse and repeat, right? So I know there's bumps along the road. I know there's cons, right? There's some sacrifices made. Talk a little bit about that. I don't want to call it the gory side, but talk a little bit about some of the things that you may have had to sacrifice, or some bumps, or some things that folks can be aware of if this is a route that they may want to go in.
Yeah, definitely sacrifices, right? Like I wasn't going out every night. I wasn't eating out every day. I didn't shop and buy clothes. Maybe for that part of my 5-year plan, it was just like, okay, if I don't need it, I'm not going to have it. I had a strict grocery budget. I was going to spend like $35 to $50 a week, and that was going to be it.
Wait. What did you just say?
35 to 50 bucks. I had it down to a science. $35 a week for and that's 3 meals a day. And if I spent 50, that's because I had to re-up on certain staples.
Wait a minute, did you coupon? Like what? That's not,
no, that's no couponing.
Okay, well, that's not happening in Connecticut. I just want you to know. You can buy eggs you can't even buy eggs for a week for $30.
Well, we're talking like 2013, 2014 before everything was ridiculous.
I'm messing with you. But no, like, so I'm going to pause you right there, because that is a huge expense for some, the groceries. So when you say you got that down to a science, what does that mean? What did you do? Did you look at, okay, I'm not having brand cereal, I'm doing, like, what was that process to get you to have your grocery bill down to a science? Because that can be a difficult one for some.
Yeah, so you would not ever find snacks in my house, cookies, chips, juices, like random stuff. That's not a necessity. That's not nourishment. I don't need that to live. Okay. Meat and vegetables, and some rice and maybe oatmeal, some fruit. That's what you would find, and that's it. And that stuff is a lot cheaper than all of the prepackaged things that are on the shelves. I cooked my food. I didn't buy anything frozen or ready-made meals. I bought the raw ingredients and I cooked my food. That alone was savings. You know, I mean, I'm buying lettuce, I'm buying broccoli. That's not as expensive as that frozen pizza that's in the freezer.
Yes. Okay, got it. Okay, so now, so you talked about the change in the growth, and I'm assuming that was a change to get it down to that. What else did you feel you had to sacrifice? I don't even like calling it sacrifice. I feel
it's not a sacrifice.
It's not.
It's totally not.
Alteration that you made to get to the goal that you want. Let's call it that.
Well, I mind you, it wasn't an alteration, because immediately after graduating, that first 5 years was setting the tone of, this is how I'm going to live my life and approach finances. And in that time, I didn't shop. If I did go out to a store, I would leave my purse in the car, because whatever I saw in the store had to be so life-changing that I was willing to walk back out there to get my purse to come back and pay for it. Most of shopping is just to feed an impulse. So I would go have my shopping therapy, fill up my cart with everything I wanted at Home Goods, and once the moment has passed, I would put all that shit back because I fed the impulse. And now it's old news. I've forgotten about the first thing I put in that cart. I don't need to buy that. I would
You
have
know what the term, I term some of it, because sometimes people do go ahead and buy, is the delayed gratification, right? So you want whatever's out new, you got that impulse, or you had a bad day, you want to go shopping. I love that concept. I never thought about that. Like, go through the process as if you were going to buy and you fill in the cart, even if you're filling that on Amazon, and then you're like, okay, I'm done now, go on, that's over with. I like that. That's a different way to look at it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then 30-day return policy. If I bought something and I didn't use it or wear it within that 30 days, it was going back to the store. So those habits were already baked in. So by the time I got to the point where I was going to start real estate investing, I didn't have the vices. There was nothing to struggle with already. I was already like a necessity only. And that's not to say that I didn't have fun. I found other ways to afford fun. I got into points hacking because I still wanted to travel, but I didn't want to spend the money on traveling. So I learned how to leverage rewards points and credit card sign-on bonuses to be able to travel for free so I can stay within my budget, but still live a little. So I never felt like I was sacrificing anything. And I think the biggest reason why it wasn't a sacrifice is because I knew what my end goal was. I knew
you better talk
that if I
it,
did these things and I made these good choices up front, I would be able to dictate what my life would look like. I would be able to dictate where I worked, if I did or didn't work, and how much time I spent trading time for money. So that goal was greater than any like little trinket or meal out or thing that I could get with money at that time. I knew my why. I knew my end goal. And anytime I was in a store like, ooh, these shoes look nice, but do I want that more than I want to retire in 5 years?
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. And I think, and you again, you keep dropping nuggets, knowing your why. Because sometimes when people don't know that, then there's nothing that the goal there is no goal, right? Because you don't have a why. I like to put my why, I'm a visual person, so I have my why very visible, right? And what I'm looking to do in the next year, in the next 3 years and 5 years and 20 years. So I have that, not 2010, sorry. I have those up there, and I love when I'm able to take one down, right? Or move it to the other side of the wall. So I'm visual. And if that's a way that you need to do it, do that as well. I had a former client when I used to do one-on-ones. She had a dream trip that she wanted to go on, and she was Ubering for that purpose. So she put a picture of where she wanted to go on her credit card. So every time she pulled it out, it paused her to say, like, this is going to have it a bit more delayed of what I want to do, or I cannot do this so I can get to this destination faster. So whichever way worked for you, that's what you need to do. So then you got into real estate investing for properties. And then you said, okay, I'm going to try something else. And you got into, let me see, I got a residential assisted living by way of skilled nursing. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So after I got 4 properties, that was enough income to like leave my job. So the first thing I did was retire. Like, okay, I'm financially independent. I don't have to work anymore. I can live off this rental income, and that's that. I'm not going to have a job. So that was the goal, to not work and have 100% control of my time. But in having control of your time, it opens up the opportunity to explore other interests and not have to be so concerned with, is this going to be super profitable immediately? Or, what am I going to get out of it? You could just do things because you want to, and that's an interest. So when looking at the properties I had, most of them were Airbnb. And in a few of them, we were starting to have some issues with regulations in the city and not being able to operate as Airbnb fully. So in just looking for other opportunities or other business models to use in those homes, I came across residential assisted living and found that I could make more on the home doing this business model than I would with Airbnb. And if anybody that's familiar with Airbnb, like, it's already making a lot of money. That's already like the top use of a single family property. So to find something else that could, 2x, 3x that is a big deal. So I probably spent 2 years just going through the process of getting licenses, getting the property ready to be able to transition it from Airbnb to an assisted living facility. And now we're licensed with a state agency for the home to be able to provide housing for clients that require 24-hour nursing care, and which is paid for through Medicaid.
Yes, love it. Love it. And now in that model, did you think it was easy for you to do so based on where you are within the country? Or do you think that that can translate to any state?
So any state can do this, right? Like every state has an agency or several agencies that are responsible for housing different subsets of the population. The one I chose happened to be specific to people with developmental and intellectual disabilities,
Okay.
but every state has it. Like this is not a Florida only situation. You can do this anywhere in any single family property.
Okay, love it. So if you had to leave the listeners, or those watching or those listening, what would you say to them if they had interest in what you've done by way of managing your money and having a tight, having it all locked in the way that you do, real estate investing or residential assisted living? What would you say to that person that were considering either of those paths that you have taken?
I would say it's the money first, right? Like a solid budget and control of your spending and a clear and defined goal is going to pave the way for anything that you decide to do, whether it's opening a business or investing in real estate. You need a strong command of your finances, and you have to have a clearly defined why to help you weigh the opportunity cost between achieving that why and other temporary decisions you might be making. If you have that, like you can do anything else that you decide to, because you've set yourself up with the tools, which are like discipline, control, planning, that you need to be able to achieve those other goals. Of course, I'm going to say my path was the right one, right? Get your money right first, then eliminate your expenses. House hacking is a great way to do that. And then from there, pick a thing that you could get up every day and do and it not feel like work, and then invest your time and energy in that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And if people are interested to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm currently on Instagram. So they can find me at Fearless and Free FI on Instagram, recently starting TikTok. And then we also have fearlessandfreefi.com, where we have some newsletters there and articles. And of course, that'll be coming out this summer.
All right. And then we're going to drop those links down below in the show notes. So please make sure that you check her out, continue to follow the story in the path in her new venture in residential assisted living. And thank you so much for being on the show. I enjoy your journey and I look forward to more of it to come.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and thank you for tuning in again to another episode of The Money Exchange, or It's My Money with Patrina Dixon, if you're watching us. And don't forget, if you enjoy, make sure you give us a thumbs up or leave us a comment below. Also, if you're not subscribed, drop down, I think below over there, the red subscribe button and make sure you do that. And if there's somebody else that you think can benefit from what has been shared here today, make sure that you share the episode as well. Make it a great day.